how do we find our identities and then how other people judge them about ourselves?
You find yourself in a position, and I actually give you a lot of credit for this, because it's not like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You got to have your feet on like a twister board.
I don't identify as anything because I was adopted. So even at a young age, I didn't identify with my family.
You are around these people, these adults, they have this impact on your upbringing, and once and you're a young child, once they say you're not a part of this group and you never will be, then you're like, all right, I'll check down to another group, I guess.
Yeah.
How you guys doing? It's nice little podcast night we got going on. I am drinking my Hendrickson Club as usual. Boring. What are you drinking, Justin?
I've got a handful of sours, and I got some nice rye whiskey.
It's a good thing that you're not driving.
Yes. I agree.
Pedro, what are you drinking, sir?
I have a store-bought coffee that I've filled halfway with bourbon, and it's doing me pretty well so far. I was trying to stay marginally lucid for this particular episode, because I don't do that all the time, and I feel like it's giving me the right balance of caffeine and ethanol, something that we all need to get through.
My car does need that.
Moses, what are you drinking?
Ooh, about to make myself famous.
I hate how well you did.
No, from my share. So from years of Catholic school, I'm stuck in a habit. So it's the good old PBR.
There's a lot of Paps right next to you, too, that are not visible on the camera, but I just
But they will
they're
be.
there.
Stay tuned.
A little bit.
Stay tuned.
Eventually the audience will see him open the beers.
Each one, yeah.
I'm kind of surprised it's not a margarita. I thought you went full parrot head.
That's fair.
No, it's all chicken head.
Wow. Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
We'll
taking it
talk
back
later.
to 1990.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there's no Socho. You were really slamming those, particularly when we first relaunched the podcast with video.
Well, there's no more in the fridge.
Variety is the spice of life.
Pedro, I know you wanted to talk about something.
I've got a little thing that I want to get off my chest, and I would love to hear your guys' opinions about it. And I go over there every single Wednesday. We were chilling out at the table. He goes, listen. He goes, I was listening to the podcast. I was like, awesome. What'd you think? And he goes, I heard you call yourself black on it. And I was like, okay, go on. And he goes, you can't call yourself black. And I was like, oh, all right, interesting. Let's have this debate then. So let me put it in perspective. Like you guys know, but for the audience, right?
Hold on.
Yeah, right, yeah. There it is, yeah. So I'm chilling with the three of them. And we've got some other folks there as well. But basically, this story is involving the three of those people almost versus me. You called yourself black, you can't. I'm like, okay, tell me why. And he goes, well, because you're not. And I'm like, okay, all right, fair enough. Now, for those of you who are not, like watching this and just listening, I am at best a high yellow. I am a very, very fair ethnic man.
I heard a new term to me called white presenting.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah. So it's like terms like passing and shit like that, right? And I was like, well, first of all, like I halfway do it, like not in jest, but like I'll often say things on the podcast where it's like, as the only black person here, as the only colored person here, things like that. Because not for nothing, you guys are white as shit.
Yeah.
You're whatever.
I'm everything, baby.
Some sort of fucking Jamaican motherfucker. But like, so sometimes I'll represent for cultures that I am, even when, like, in other words, like there's no like proper black man, let's say, to speak on behalf of this part of my lineage or just that general
I think
group.
that's absolutely fair.
That's absolutely fair, right? Like I'll also speak on behalf of Spanish people. Like I'm not the most Spanish man that you've ever met, but sure shit, you guys ain't.
You're more Spanish than black.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Basically, he's like, so you can't do that. So I'm like, okay, well, I can because I am these groups. I'm not trying to like pretend like I'm more than I am or something like that. And it becomes a little bit of debate. And I am going somewhere with this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I was like, how am I not these things that I actually am? Like my dad is half black.
Right.
He's 100% a Colombian man. In this country, he was treated as an African American, even though he was not an African American. My mother's white and what have you. So like very aware that I'm a mutt, like this. And I was like, so how are you making this argument? Also, three fucking white dudes lecturing me on like gatekeeping my own fucking ethnicity. So like I kind of went into it and I was getting riled up, even though like that's not like I normally try not to be that way. But like basically where they then came at it from is that the joint argument that I got from these three white men was you are too well paid and too well spoken to be black or Spanish. So therefore, you are 100% white.
That is probably the most racist part of the story.
Yeah, that is the flimsiest part of the argument.
And I was, first of all, like so offended to be, and like this is my racism. I was so offended to be called white, you know, even though like you guys are all my friends, and like I have that like racism in me, so I have nothing against it, like in this way or whatever. But I was like, how dare you, sir? Like I was offended by that, and then on top of that, the idea that you could be defined as a certain. In this case, they were trying to talk about race, and that's really where I want to go with this conversation.
Sure.
Yeah. They were trying to define what they believe that races exist. So they believe in like black, white, and those things as being real defining lines between us. And I do want to talk about that tonight for my own fucking like perspective on things, but also that they were defining that like the only way that you could be black, like I can't be black because like I don't dress like I'm black, because I'm not poor enough to be black, because I don't talk like I'm black, because I'm not strapped right now and like carrying a fucking, you know, fucking ghetto blaster with me. So therefore, I can't be that thing. And so I default to white because I'm well-spoken and make decent money, which of course only white people are allowed to do.
That reminds me back in the day, I don't remember who exactly said it, but they said that about Obama.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, he's very well spoken for a black man. It's just like, that's a shitty thing.
Yeah, it's a double-edged compliment.
I will say, and this is kind of where I wanted to go with it, where it's like, I do harbor that belief a little bit. So I'm contradicting myself right now, where it's like, I very much so, like, because I think that it's like a matter of scale. And then I want you guys to jump in, but I'll just because you brought up Obama, I will very much so say, because like, I know that like I'm fucking light as shit for somebody who is like, I consider myself like enough black to talk about these types of things, right? Like I like to go and hang out at fucking black bars where I'm the lightest person there by far, you know? But like, I like to go and do that shit. I consider that a bit of a part of like my identity, right? But I also know that I'm not Wesley Snipes, you know? Like, I know that when I walk into the black bar, I know that people look at me and they're like, yo, do you got the right to be here, you know? And then you talk to somebody and they get to see who you are and you're welcomed. And I think that that exists in all of the cultures. It's not just black, but it's everybody. But yeah, overall, I think that I don't know. I just want to go in the direction of how do we find our identities and then how other people judge them about ourselves. And my like last little tidbit about it, the reason that I find this so interesting and I want to hear what you guys have to say genuinely is because my personal experience in life, like even before we knew each other, and you and I, Dan, have known each other almost our entire lives, but even before we met, because I'm such a weird mutt, where I'm like so many different unusual things for where we live. Like, don't get me wrong, maybe you go to a spot and you find people who are like mixed in the same way. Because obviously, like here in New Jersey, you get a particular mix, you know. You go to a different spot, you'll get a different mix, right? But here where we live, where I've always lived, where for the most part we've always resided, right? I'm a weird mutt in that I very, very rarely meet somebody who's, I won't use any racial epithets on this particular episode.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't
Save
want,
them for the
I don't
next
want YouTube to fucking like, you know, fucking.
We're past that point, man.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But I'm a little bit black. I'm more Spanish than that. I got the Jew in me, and comically, you know, depending on how one looks at Judaism, the only thing that I'm not is actually white. But I always found myself this weird mix where you're not black enough to be black, right? You're not Spanish enough to be Spanish. You're not, you know, if you count Judaism as white, you're not white, you know, all these things.
In that same vein, too, it's like you could be considered, well, you're not Jewish enough to be Jewish.
Well, yeah,
I don't
exactly.
think you've encountered that too much with Jewish people. I think they've said, like, even if you're a little bit Jewish, you're still Jewish.
Well, yeah, what that is, without getting too far off to that, but yeah, so within Judaism, and I actually really dislike this about when I do go and like run into another like proper Jew, which we've got here in this particular part of New Jersey. In Judaism, the religion, if your mother is Jewish, then you are 100% Jewish.
Yeah.
If your father's Jewish, then you're not Jewish at all.
Correct.
Right? And so, like, and I always hated that too, because like my mother is the Jewish one, right? And my dad is a fucking Black Colombian, basically. And so, like, but imagine if that was reversed.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I go and meet the exact same person, and they, like, so right now, like, they're just like, which one of your parents is Jewish? You know, because of course I lean into it because I'm a fucking Jew. You know, and I want a fucking good deal. But like, I'll be like, it's my mom. And they're like, oh, you're 100% Jewish then. But if that was reversed and I was like, oh, it's my dad, they would just be like, fuck you, which completely negates everything that my father would hypothetically be in that scenario.
It's still a part of that same gatekeeping situation. It's just that weird, dynamic behind it.
It's gatekeeping.
Yeah.
And so where I'm approaching this from is basically like, and I know that like I'm probably, you know, and I said this to you before, where it's like you're the only one who's like close to a mutt the way that I am, but it's like on this particular podcast, but it's like for myself, having always been, you know, like a weird fucking mutt, and not fitting into these spots, I really feel like I've formulated my own identity in so many ways by choice. You know, I pick the parts that I like and I emphasize those and I take tremendous personal pride in them. So they're not fake, they are who I am. But at the same time, to what degree does everybody do that?
Do you think that you did that by choice, though? Because
no.
I will... No. Because I think that is what you said.
It
right?
is exactly what I said, and I'm already contradicting myself.
Yeah. Because the way that I was going to approach it is that I mostly identify with being Irish.
Yeah.
That was not my choice.
I would have never been able to tell that.
It was the choice of effectively my father and his side of the family, because they celebrated being Irish.
Yeah.
I found out as an adult that I'm more Polish than I am Irish. However, that never came up. We weren't eating pierogies. We went to the Irish festival instead.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much that, and I still, to this day, like I went to Ireland and I enjoyed going to Ireland. I might go to Poland, but I assume that that's going to be very depressing, because Poland, I'm sure it's a lovely country, but you've been conquered a few times by some asshole regimes.
I don't know. Some of them are all right. I'm wearing a Waffen SS jacket.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about that then?
No, we're not going to talk about that.
That's probably why those Jews don't agree with you.
But the overall point that I'm making is it wasn't so much that you made the decision. It's that it was a nature kind of decision, that you made that decision because it was already made for you by effectively your dad.
By circumstances, let's say. So yeah, like I do agree with that. And I actually, before like even bringing this up or anything, because like I said, I was pissed off when basically like I felt like my identity was being attacked.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know? And they weren't talking shit on Jews, so it's like I didn't need to defend my mother, you know, but I felt like I needed to defend my father, who did experience this shit.
You know what the unfortunate thing is too? Like where we're from, like this general area that we're from, it's like white suburbia, white Republican suburbia, and that's like what it is. I went to high school, we had one black person in my class of like 300, and like I met you in high school.
Yeah. I was the second black guy.
I had three.
Didn't pass.
I'm like, I wasn't cool enough to be friends with the actual black guy, but like, I took black light. But like, it's. I understand. I don't agree with it. I understand where they're coming from, because that's what they kind of know around here. When you don't grow up around ethnic people at all in any shape.
But it's
way
also
or form.
It's a weird thing for somebody when you're like not a part of that culture whatsoever to be like, well, you're not actually that. It's like if somebody told me, well, you're not actually Irish. I'm like, are you Irish? Are you from Ireland?
Yeah.
Are you have any lineage to this?
We all end up gatekeeping, and with things like that, it's like, and this is kind of why like I was trying to use myself in my own mind as like the guinea pig. Like, to what degree? And I mean this legit. Like,
Is that an Italian slur?
To what degree? What's that?
Was that an Italian slur?
Yeah, easy guinea pig. You know what the fuck I said, you fucking wop.
Again, an Italian slur is stupid wop dago. As I describe somebody who's
You keep saying that word. It's so cool.
I think to myself, so like, you know, when I'm hanging out with like black friends, let's put it that way, right? Where like I'll drop all sorts of terminology. If I'm hanging out with like a group of like black friends and everybody's black, or at least like everybody's friends, you know, like everybody knows each other. There's like white people peppered in, whatever, fucking Hindu dog. Doesn't
play
fucking matter.
to your audience.
Right? I'll drop all sorts of fucking words. I'm dropping N-bombs and shit like that, because my approach, because they are properly black, I'm afforded that in that particular context. And this is where, like, and this is what I'm saying, like, my own racism comes into play here.
Yeah.
And my own ambiguous way of describing it. Because, like, when I'm hanging out with proper black folk, right, I'll use the so-called N-word, right? I will also use it casually sometimes with you guys, even though you guys are all white, within a particular context. And, like, I'm not, like, in my opinion, I'm not, like,
just spouting off.
yeah, I'm not, like, but like,
a whole bunch of hard R's.
yeah, right. Yeah.
All of a sudden,
for me,
Pete
it's always
became
a soft,
NWA.
For me, it's always a soft day unless there's a context, right? But, like, usually when I use hard R, I'm making fun of an actual racist. But I'll talk that way when I'm with, like, proper, like, what I consider, and that's what I mean. Like, I'm also drawing those lines. So when I'm saying proper black person, what the fuck does that mean?
Exactly.
You know?
That's
I'm
very
hanging
interesting.
out with, like, a hood, like what I consider a hood black person, which, so, like, in that regard, I do almost understand what you're saying, where it's like, you don't act black, so therefore you're not that.
It's one of those things where I catch the impetus of, like, where it comes from, but I don't quite the follow through.
Like, I don't
vague.
understand why you would do that. Why not just be who you are all the time?
Well, because-
like, and when you're in these different circles of friends
give
or
you an example.
social groups, like,
I'll give you an-
why not just, like, they either are going to accept you or they're not.
It's not about acceptance. I think that it's, and I'll actually harken back to our episode that was on slang. So I'll give you an example as to how we all do exactly what I just described. When I am speaking to my mother, who knows exactly who I am, I don't speak to her the way that I speak to you guys.
Of course.
Right? I speak to my mother in a different way. If I meet another little old lady on the street who I've never met before in my life, be her black, white, fucking Spanish, whatever, I won't swear in front of her until she swears in front of me, or I think it's, like, okay to do so.
I know I'm guilty. I play to every crowd that I'm around.
Yeah,
Whatever
but it's not playing. You can be...
It's a decorum. You're following by
Yeah.
a certain set of rules based on your own perceptions on a different group.
I can speak to different people in different ways. In other words, I don't feel like I'm ever, like, faking who I am.
No.
But it's like, but I'm not going to sit here like with you guys, like, not for nothing. Like, I like the way that I grew up in, like, Lakewood back when it was still like hood, but I was a little kid, right? So a lot of my upbringing, the majority of it, was hanging out with white folk, which is where I get, like, also it goes in two directions. It's like, on the one hand, I'm pretty fucking white. On the other hand, I was never really accepted by the authorities that be in those groups, which caused me, and I'm, like, you know, psychoanalyzing myself, but there's a rebuttal against that then, where it's like, okay, you're going to basically say, like, I'm not white enough to be a part of this group. Even though I have friends here who accept me, who are very much so white, you accept them, but not me, because I don't look the right way. And it causes you, I think, naturally as a human being,
that's the
to
nurture
embrace
aspect of it. Is that you are around these people, these adults, they have this impact on your upbringing, and once you're a young child, once they say you're not a part of this group and you never will be, then you're like, all right, I'll check down to another group, I guess. Because I have no other option. You just told me I don't belong here.
Exactly, yeah. And so, like, and I'll give this real quick example, but it's like, for me, Dan, you and I knew each other way back in the day. My first year of elementary school, going to Tom's River, there was a proper black kid there, like Brandon. I still remember his name. He was a black man. You know, hope he's doing well. I hope you're listening to this. I was the next blackest person, which is shocking because I am fairly fair. But I was called out by the fucking principal of all people because I had a fro. Because I grow a fucking
you did rock the fro back.
I did, yeah. I didn't want to, Dan, because I was a little kid and I wanted to fit in. You know, I wanted to fit in, but I got black people hair, and so I got a fro when it grows out, and so I was ostracized for that. But in terms of, like, how we then create the ways in which we communicate with different groups, and this is why, like, I will like almost single out, like, white people stand out in that regard, in that, in my opinion, and it's going to sound racist because it is.
I'll lay it on us,
but
baby.
like, I think that part of what goes into belonging to one of these groups that are the minority, however you want to describe them, but I'm talking about black people, talking about Spanish people, I'm talking about minorities in this country, right? Part of what it is to belong to these groups, which comes with all the negative things, but it comes to the positive thing of that you're unique. This is what makes it desirable. This is why you see white people mimic what black people do.
They absolutely do.
Yeah.
They absolutely do.
Yeah, you see this exist. Like, in real life, we can all observe it. And the reason that doesn't, like the mimicry of white people doesn't exist, it's because the adversity that's dealt with by a white person in this country, historically, whether it's changing now or not, I won't speak to that, but I will say historically, the difficulty, the adversity day to day that a white person deals with in this society is not what any other so-called minority groups deals with. So if you want to pretend or actually be a part of any minority group, whatever it is, then you should know something about the adversity that went with that. So the only reason that I feel like I have some sort of a linkage to these things isn't just that I was like brought up to know it, like I was brought up in a pretty white way, like my dad was an immigrant to this country, so he wasn't an African American, like he had a completely different version of it. So despite being the same color and having the same, like blood in his veins, it didn't mean the same thing as it does as a black man who was born in this country in 1933 when my dad was born in Colombia in 1933. He came here and experienced it in 1953 for the first time. The reality of it is that if you experience the adversity of that thing, if you know what it's like to be called a racial epithet and treated poorly because of that by the police or by an authority figure, me with the fro, like something like that, it could be big or small. If you know something of that, then that, to me, so my personal opinion is something of a measurement of whether you're allowed to call yourself a part of that group. If you never dealt with any of the adversity of it, so then we touch upon things like, your Carlton figure, where it's like a black man who's never dealt with it because he was like rich as hell. But like, I would afford that. I don't like Jay-Z, but like Jay-Z knows what the fuck this shit is, right. I think that now he's basically a white man, but he's still blacker than me because he's dealt with it.
Isn't that still a form of gatekeeping in that, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air example that you gave, the Carlton example? Isn't that still gatekeeping? Like, hey, you're not black enough because you don't act a certain
100%
way?
It is. Yeah. In other words, I think that all of us engage in that. I think that humans are just naturally...
It's built into us.
Yeah. We divide into groups and then we call it racism, but... that's just like the term that we apply to it. We do it with everything.
People, human at a base level, it goes back to like that Dunbar's number, that 150 people you can know sort of thing. And then like tribal nature, like the fear of the other.
Yeah. We divide ourselves in these ways. Yeah. And I do think that it's very much so arbitrary, but it's not arbitrary in the sense that it's based off of, physical appearance and things like that.
But it also goes to not even just like black versus white. It goes to white versus white, where... I'm not hanging out with a fucking methed up trailer park trash white person, even though I'm a white. Yeah.
Black
it's like,
people
we're both
racist.
white, and we can both have like. I mean, I'm not the greatest example for this, but like you're a typical white person, like Swedish, from the Caucasus.
I think we went with Swedish.
From the mountains of the Caucasus. Both of them can be. No. But you don't make enough money, and you live in a trailer where I live in a house. Like, maybe it's fucking shack on the beach, but it's more of a house than your trailer.
Part of what he said to me, he was like, "You're too well off, right?" Because at this point, mind you, like now I'm okay, but it's like I spent many years not having any.
The unfortunate thing is, I know this argument because I know these people. Yeah. It's going to point A. It's not going to point B, C, D, E.
But it also presupposes that other groups don't have those struggles at all. There are plenty of white people that are in wretched poverty.
I feel more camaraderie with a poor fucking white trash person, wherever they live, than I do with Jay-Z, because Jay-Z is a billionaire, right? But that's just it. It's that there's that one hand of it, socioeconomic camaraderie, right? And then the made up ethnic camaraderie, because the truth of it is that if Jay-Z got pulled over and that cop didn't know that he was Jay-Z, would he be treated the same as you? And I would say, no, probably not. He would probably be treated as a Poe black man. I was going to say something different, but we're on YouTube.
But also at the same time, real quick, don't want to spend a whole lot of time with this. Will he treat the cop differently than how I would treat the cop? This is a bad example because I'm prior military, and if I'm being pulled over, I've probably acknowledged, all right, I'm doing something wrong. Please don't lose. Please just don't lose a lot of money on a stupid fucking ticket. So it's just.
But you wouldn't think I'm about to get shot though.
Here, my logging, sir.
Yeah. So like, My example.
I honestly, in that example, every time I've been pulled over by a cop, I have been nervous, very nervous, like shaking nervous. So I have I know he has.
That's weird. Dan's not an anxious person.
He's very level-headed.
Yeah.
So I always still have that in the back of my mind that like, hey, if you fuck this up, you could be arrested or shot.
You know what? Maybe Dan's black.
Maybe it is. Because I know, like, I get pulled over all the fucking time. And, whatever.
But it's also at the same...
Like...
We're talking about identity and like upbringing and all that stuff.
Sure.
That was something that was imparted by my father, where it's just like, if you get pulled over, keep your hand on the steering wheel, do not reach for your license and registration.
Yeah. Every black father who exists teaches his son.
I got the same goddamn lesson.
Yeah.
So maybe I am black.
Yeah.
But you won't accept me in the club, Pete.
No, I won't.
Why won't you accept me in the club?
Because you're white.
I love orange soda.
We went over this.
You've never seen Dan's father's show, My White Son?
My white son.
God damn it. You know how much I love orange soda and jazz. Why can't I join?
You're halfway there. Get the face paint on and we'll talk.
And I also can't swim. Come on.
So like to answer that as best I can, I certainly don't think that poor treatment. I think that it's not like it's isolated to one group or another. I think that instead what it is that we could all be treated poorly. And I thought about this. I was actually having a conversation with my brother, right? So we have the same exact parents, so our genetics are the same. My brother and I look pretty similar. I think you guys would agree for the most part. If anything, he's a little bit darker than I am. He describes himself as one of the whitest people he's ever met.
He's got a lot of chickens, so yeah.
He does, he does. Yeah, he describes himself as poor white trash. Which is actually very
he's more Trevor.
Which is so funny because we're not white at all. But yeah.
Love you.
The gist of it is that I think that the way in which he would approach that same scenario, because we were having this conversation where he's been pulled over, and he was like, I think that maybe sometimes that came into play, but that he had always done something first that caused that to happen. Now, mind you, we're talking about the cops, right?
Sure, yeah.
So it's like you don't really know always, but like his opinion was, he was like, when I got pulled over, I legitimately had done something first to flag. It wasn't like, we're not living in fucking Camden. We don't live in the hood where it's just straight up you're getting flagged out because you're a black man, right? I don't think that that's the experience that my brother had, and I don't think that's the experience that I've had. But what I will say is that, and he walked the line a little bit with it, where he was like, I think that it came into play a little bit when the cop walked up, because we all get judged, right? We're all judged based off of our appearance.
Yeah,
it's
off of the
value.
cover.
Yeah,
it's profiling.
exactly.
Yeah, it's
profiling.
Yeah, it's automatic profiling.
I can tell you that very much so. I've been pulled over in my life a shit ton of times. At least half of those times I had done something that, like, I know that I did something wrong. I was caught speeding. I rolled through the stop sign. Something like that. It was always something stupid and innocuous, but like I did it and I got caught. Stupid kid, It was mostly when I was younger. Let's just call it I'll be fucking generous and say that it was a shit ton of fucking times. Let's just call it fucking 50 times. I'm 40 years old. I've been pulled over a lot more than you guys, right? All right.
Somebody did a math in the comments.
Yeah. You got a fucking gold card. I don't want to hear about it.
That's my third one.
Yeah.
They do eventually take it.
Of all those times that I got pulled over, half the times, 100%, I had just done the thing. I went through a phase where I was just like, fuck the police, like they're racist, this and that. And again, and that is going back to what you said, where it's like, it's reflective of my experience in life. I met growing up where it's like, like all of my friends for the most part are white folks, so I don't like have that type of like, I'm not like judging the whole group that way, but definitely authority figures I view in that framework where it's like, you're an authority figure who is white, you're probably racist. So I would approach, the police officer comes up to me.
But in that instance, it's not necessarily being racist against white, it's being racist against blue. Like,
I mean, that's fair.
It doesn't matter if they're black, white, or whatever.
But, so, and that's an interesting
But as long as they have that shield and
their identity is a fucking white cop.
Yeah. Well, their identity is a cop at base. Like, then you find out if they're white, black, Puerto Rican, or Haitian.
I will say that when, on the rare occasion in New Jersey where I meet a black cop, I've treated them completely differently.
And that's why you would get, but you'll also get different
know?
results in that way too. Even if you were to treat the white cop the same way as you're treating this black cop, because sometimes it is about your attitude, especially with them.
I agree, and that's why I'm giving myself that I'm in argument against myself. I'm saying that like there was a big part of this where it was on me. That I was the one with the bad attitude. But I can tell you that of those, again, like I'm embellishing, but let's call it 50, working against myself here, on 3 occasions, I was directly called a thing and labeled like a racist fucking term by the police, which is one of the reasons, going back to that on the note of identity and why I do embrace like the more ethnic side of myself, is that I have been pulled out of the car and called a spick or worse, something like that. And it's like, if I gotta fucking deal with that shit, if I have to fucking deal with that, because that's the thing, Dan, and that's where I make that difference with it, because I'm assuming you've never been pulled out of the car and called a spick.
No, because it's again, yes sir, no excuse sir. It's really hard to get pulled out of the car when you're like that.
But even when I've done that, and I've gone through phases where, like when I was a young person, a young driver, right? And I mean, I'll give you this example. Before I was fucking driving, right? I was hanging out with my mom. I was a little kid. I was maybe like 12 years old, something like that. Right?
You were driving?
I was driving around. I was with my mom. We were hanging out in some neighborhood. She was seeing a friend. And I was like running around the neighborhood, this, that, or the other. We were all playing with water guns, right? It's like me and a bunch of kids. I don't know. You see where this is going, right? And all of us were playing around. It was like a bunch of white kids. And like, I didn't know anything. I was 12 years old. And like, I was raised in like, in this like mixed way where it's like, I was more or less like, kind of like told like you're white, but like also be aware. It's almost like the talk, if you guys know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Black folk, where it's like, like be careful.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So like I got a little bit of that talk, but not the real one, And so like I'm running around with like all these kids, and I don't see, at that age, it took me a while like as an adult to realize like how
process that through.
How I was.
You don't
being
see
perceived.
color that way.
As a kid, I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know that my dad looked any different from anybody else.
Unless they are brought up that way to see the difference.
Exactly.
But it takes the interaction of the adult to point out race to the child.
So
Children
like,
don't see that shit.
Exactly. And that, exactly. 100%.
Yeah, you shouldn't be exposed to that until you're teens when you're actually watching TV, and that's what. Like that happens.
Well, unless you're fucking
in
black,
media and just like TV, like there is a difference here.
Regardless of that, the fucking police showed up to that neighborhood, and there was a whole thing. It's like, it's a little bit shaky in my mind. I'm 40 years old now. I was 12 at the time. But like, I had a fucking water gun like everyone else, and the cops are just like, put the gun down sort of scenario. And my fucking poor white Jewish mother is just like, why are you doing this? Can I give you money? What makes you go away? And I had no clue what was going on. So like that, just like as that example. So it's not like just that I was being a contrarian young adult, like I do own that. Like, very much so. I was a dick to cops many times, and the cop was a dick back to me. And there's times where I deserved that. I was being an asshole. There's other times where I was doing that, and the cop was way over the top. All of these scenarios played out, but I've also been in that scenario where I acted exactly the same way as you described yourself then, where I'm like, I've got the hands on the wheel, I take the fucking keys out, put them up on the dash, I do the whole fucking thing so that you don't give me a hard time, because I'm trying to feel out, how do I interact with you so that you don't treat me this way? Because like, if I did something wrong, give me the fucking ticket, because like, I can't argue with you. There's no point in that. So just give me the fucking ticket and I'll be on my way. And and it is the minority, right? But in at least 3 of those cases that I can remember, the cop was not happy with that and wanted me to get into the debate, get into the argument.
Well, it also depends on the cop. It's not even you.
It's an individual case-by-case basis, because I think I've known that stuff too.
No, and I know that. And in these 3 cases, I was specifically called racial epithets, and that has an impact on me.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm not saying that it wasn't just that one cop. I'm not saying that all cops. I focus on cops because it's an experience. Yeah. I'm not saying all cops are like this.
Well, yeah, you have to generalize it with something.
Yeah. But I'm saying that that's an experience that I had. And my brother did not have the same experience. He like, again, I was having this conversation.
It leaves a mark in you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I think that the cops have definitely treated me differently when they already pulled me over for doing something. Sure. And he goes, and they did treat me differently when they saw how I looked. and he goes, and he was speaking to me, and he goes, and not for nothing, he goes, I'm really good at talking to people like that, and I was able to navigate my way out of it. My brother knows how to talk white better than I do, and is more willing to do so.
He's incredibly measured.
Yeah. As soon as I feel like I'm being targeted like that, my pride takes over, and I feel like, and my brother's very pragmatic. So in other words, this is like some flattery towards him. I hope he's listening.
He shut it off.
Like, we'll get his notes. Don't you worry.
He's able to do that because he's thinking about what's the best thing for me right now, which is what our father would want him to do, which is what my mother would want him to do, which is what I want him to do. But I can't swallow that pride.
Right.
And I fall back into this other sentiment of that I'm going to stand up for my people and who I am and for my father and so on and so on. Not my mother, because she's a Jew. But, she doesn't even stand up.
You got to treat it in that Marcellus Wallace that way. He's like, feel that pride? Fuck pride.
Fuck pride, yeah. But that's how I found myself reacting. So I'm not defending how I reacted, but I am speaking of how I was treated. In other words, Ed is able to basically act white in moments when he needs to get what he wants.
Sure.
And because I won't do that, bend the knee and talk in like that fucking, and don't get me wrong, when I get angry, I fucking talk like a fucking lawyer, which is about as white as you fucking get. So
No.
That's a weird way to say Jew, but
yeah, contrary to what white people say, Jews are the most white. But that's how I found some of my experiences.
Yeah.
So in other words, going back to that, I think that it still works in that same way where you're you have that experience where it's you're doing all of these things. You're going to be treated differently than I am unless I have to fake a little bit. And I don't think that Ed's faking, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, also
Ed knows what he's doing, and
he's being smart.
He's very measured in what he's doing.
Yeah, he's being smart.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, it's not because of the color of my skin. I've gotten cops that were complete and utter pieces of shit towards me.
So about black cops.
For nothing more than having a bumper sticker on my car.
But what I will say is every black cop I've interacted with has been fantastic.
Yeah.
I had a bad
Because they don't want to be cops.
I've had very obvious Italian cops want to punch my face into the back of my head.
I got into it with a black cop. I forget. I want to say it was some event we were doing in Bradley Beach or something, somewhere on the
Bradley Beach, they don't have a black cop.
They don't have black
They're not
people.
allowed.
Yeah.
But it
That's
was
the token one.
we were
Shout out to you,
North
brother.
End.
we were pulling out shit for those set up the tent and whatever bullshit we were
Are we
selling.
doing a seafood festival?
It was something to
That's
that
totally where you
effect.
find black people.
Yeah.
And yeah.
They love that.
But I had parked in the double parked because we were just unloading. I'm just trying to
do
get
love
this
to double
shit
park.
out. Well, I'm getting the shit out, and it's on Ocean Ave or whatever that fucking beach road is called.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crowded because there's an event happening, and we're just trying. I was just trying to get the shit out of my car, so I double parked. And he's like, "Oh, you can't park there." And I'm like, "I'll be 1 minute. I'm just getting this out." And then a car was pulling out, so I'm like, "Fine, dude." I pulled in. He's like, "Oh, you can't park there either." I'm like, "Well, I'm doing it because I'm moving soon, so whatever."
He threw a handful of gold cards at him, whipped them in the face.
Like shuriken.
He started when I came. I was at the tail end of getting the shit out of the car to just throw up on the boardwalk there, and I started moving the car while he's writing the ticket. He's like, "Oh, where do you think you're going?" I'm like, "Where you told me. I'm leaving," and I just pulled away.
No.
I never got anything after that, but me and him were just going back and forth, not screaming, but just he was
And I would
authority
have been fucking arrested.
But I was the white guy in this,
Yeah.
and he was the black cop.
Yeah.
So what happened there?
Oh, I didn't know that was a question. Sorry, I should have been paying more attention.
I want to circle back to something that you said at the very top of this episode that I wanted to actually push back a little bit and get your perspective on. Everybody's here.
Yeah.
You said both represent these groups and speak for.
Yeah, two different things.
They're two totally different things. Yeah. You can represent any group because you identify with it. That's fine.
Right.
Speak for something entirely different.
I agree. So, if I may?
Yes.
I completely agree. That's a complicated fucking subject, essentially. Yeah. Who can you speak for, whereas who can you identify with, and what's the difference there? So the way that I usually, personally, because that's all that I can speak about, because I think that all of these things are ambiguous, you know? Like, am I black? It depends on who you ask. If you ask a certain cop, he'll say, absolutely. Pete's a fucking, black man and belongs in jail because he's probably smoking crack and poor.
He's smoking crack and rich.
But if you ask like one of the fucking random black folk at like some of the bars that I like to hang out with, they'd probably be like, Pete's a high yellow at best. He's practically a white man and he's half Jewish. So I don't know if he counts as black. So in other words, who you relate to and who you identify with on your own side, that's internal. That's all about you. And again, going back to that, I'm such a mutt and don't really fit in well with any. I don't fit in completely with any one group.
Yeah, you're kind of like in between everything.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's that like I don't walk into the black bar. Like I would love to fit in there because like I want to be there. Like these are my people. But definitely,
there's an attraction
there's a little
to like
side
distinct identity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I see everybody else, and again, like we live in New Jersey, but I think that this is true everywhere. Like I'm surrounded by white people. They're mostly Irish, Italian, German, whatever, right? Yep. I don't fall into those groups. I'm not those things, right? So you want to fit into some sort of a group. And I believe that I do, but I'm also very aware that I need to like always kind of pay my dues. When I walk into, the fucking black bar, I'm very aware that it looks like I'm a fucking cop walking in because I'm the fucking whitest dude there. If
you also dress pretty copish.
Well, listen, I'm wearing a fucking Waffen SS uniform, so I'm dressed like the best of the fucking police.
All right.
Please stop saying things like that.
Sorry. I've been avoiding using...
you said the best of the police, so that bar is like
Ed
really
was trying
low.
to tell me to talk about Hitler all the podcast, so... But
he needs to stop.
Good friend of yours, huh?
A good friend of mine.
Love you.
Yeah. But
Wait, Hitler?
so like I'm aware of that. At the same time, like I walk into Spanish bars, right, where no one speaks any English at all. And people look at me because it's obvious that I like am not a regular there, and everybody is. And I walk in and I sit down, and everybody's looking at me, and it's like, what, you fucking gringo walk off the street? And then I speak in my shitty Spanish to the bartender, and I'm like, I order my drink, and then I'm like,
yep.
and I'm like, ¿Dónde está eres? And then, where are you from? And they'll reluctantly tell me.
Established community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I tell them, and I'm like, well, my dad was from Colombia. And then they're so welcoming, and everybody else talks to me. But you need that bridge. You need to show that you have a right to do these things. And I always have to show that. Every single time that I go into a new place, it's never obvious. I'm not the Mexican day laborer walking in off the street. I'm not the fucking low-red black man walking in, who just got harassed by the police or some shit like that.
Your situation is 100% you exist between all of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And likewise, when I get pulled over by the police, I'm also not treated as a white man. Yeah. They're very quick to be like, oh, you fucking wandered out of a spick bar? Like something like that,
But the places you're going, which is predominantly bars, regardless of what...
Yeah. It's all bars. That's my people.
That's probably why you get in so much trouble with the cops.
Well, yeah, but there's a commonality
there. A lot of
there.
drunk folks, a lot of drunk.
There's a commonality there, that whether it's a black bar or a Hispanic bar or a white bar, you're always judged regardless of what you look like until you start drinking and start communing, because it's not a place that you regular.
Well, that's true, but
because I go to like white bars and like I know I'm a little bit, but I get side-eyed all the fucking time because like nobody knows who the fuck I am.
Yeah,
you look like you're gonna blow the place up.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, but not until I get a drink in me.
You're right, but I'm giving these examples because I don't think that that's the case. It's not just that it's a bar I've never been to. It's an ethnic thing. Yeah. To answer your question, Dan, do you have the right to identify with or to speak for somebody? My approach to that is that I won't. So because we all have our own perceptions, our own racism built in. Again, I am aware. On the one hand, I want to be accepted at the Spanish bar, at the black bar, because I very much so feel like I am these things, And if they didn't accept me, I'd turn around and walk the fuck out because I'm not trying to step on your fucking toes. But I do feel like I have a right to be there because of my past, because of my family, and so on and so forth. But that said, at the same time, I am very aware that I am the lightest person at the black bar, or I am the only person at the Colombian bar that speaks shitty Spanish, you know? These things are not lost on me, right? Or like I walk in, well, Jews don't have bars, but I've walked into Jewish spots.
That's not true. Stingers in Long Branch.
Yeah, all right, fair enough, yeah. But even in that regard, you know, where it's like I've walked in places like that, and they're like, well, you have a lot of tattoos, so you can't be Jewish. I'm like, well, I'm wearing a white shirt and a black jacket, so I got that shit.
Yeah.
But
Just don't shake my right hand.
Yeah. So I'm aware that I don't fit in fully to those communities, which like a bit like does suck for me. Like I wish that it wasn't the case, you know, and I would have to also deal with the adversity of that. But on the flip side of it, if one of those people that I think fits in more. So like, and in this regard, this is where I'm also racist and judging the book by its cover sort of thing. A black man who's darker than me, who's maybe had a more of a traditional black upbringing, or a Spanish person who's off the fucking boat, you know, and their second language is English, or maybe they don't speak English at all, you know, whatever. If that person is there, then I'll back them up.
Right.
If they have no problem with what's being said, if it's some fucking white boy at the bar, right, and it's predominantly white, and he's dropping N-bombs left and right, and the black man that I'm sitting next to has no problem with that, and he's like fucking Wesley Snipes, then I'm not going to fucking say shit.
Right.
But if I am the only person there to say something, and I feel, and it's a feeling, so I'm not saying that it's a fact, but if I feel like I'm the only person who's got the right to stand up, then I also feel like it's my obligation to stand up.
You find yourself in a position, and I actually give you a lot of credit for this, because you got to, it's not like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You got to have your feet on like a twister board.
It feels that way. Yeah.
And I give you a lot of credit for that.
It's both awesome and that I fit into so many diverse communities, because I do go into all these bars.
You also click the thing that white people want. They want to be able to enjoy spice or something.
Exactly,
Season it.
Here's
You
some
mean
salt.
Or flour?
Oh, look, a black guy. Neat.
It's
Oh, my lucky stars, a
like,
Negro.
obviously there's a lot of problems, but I think eventually people could meet in the middle of fucking white people weren't so stuck up.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Just
And it's
relax. Relax.
Yeah.
Relax and be cool.
Yeah.
So, follow-up question to all of this as well.
Sure.
Would you what do you think of the principle that, or the idea, not principle, the idea that if you
Don't get too
identify
fancy.
or think that you represent these groups and you're not quite up to that label,
Perceived
you're
standard,
Up to snuff.
perceived status. Like, I'll use my example. Identify as most American. You can see how I'm dressed. But,
Ethnically American.
Well, I mean, the only reason he got in the Navy is so he could put on blackface.
but also at the same time,
He
like,
traded a pumpkin to get in.
Oh.
the only other really group that I would identify would be Irish, because that's how I was brought up. But if I were to say, like, oh, I identify as being Irish, there's a lot of people in the country of Ireland that would have a thing or two to say.
Can I-
Is it insulting to that group?
All right. Let me just throw an addendum in. So, like, my family is split. Like, my mom's side of the family, like, everything is documented back to the 1300s in a very strange way. It's all Dutch and whatever. That's fine. They've been living in this area pre-revolutionary times.
Bunch of white folk.
Super white. The whitest of the white.
Super white.
Yeah. My dad's family, also incredibly white.
Here we are.
But
I'm
a
just trying to
gigantic mess. So, like, I grew up, like, I knew my mom's side was Dutch, but there's no good holidays for Dutch.
I believe
I am
that.
at a loss.
I'm sorry.
That's not true, because they celebrate Black Pete for Christmas on the note
They
of racism.
They do.
And that's my name.
Incredibly.
Oh, it's so
So
racist.
you're white.
Yeah, I guess.
Also, by the way, Justin, I started cracking up just because of the way that you said Dutch.
Dutch.
Just reminded me of Austin Powers 3.
I know. Hilariously, I've never seen it. But everybody's told me about it. But, like, yeah, it's my mom's family, like, it's all documented. They've been in the same area. My grandmother owned pretty much the entire town. Like, her family owned the entire town that I grew up in. All the schools are named after family members and stuff. Whatever.
For a white family, I don't believe it.
Well, that's a lot of our
Yeah.
area anyway.
Super ultra white Dutch people.
Yeah.
My dad's family is a freaking mystery. Also incredibly white. But hilariously, when white people don't know what they are, they just start throwing weird things in the mysterious family tree because we need to spice it up a little bit.
No.
And I still don't know what my father's family tree is. It's a mystery. They did 23andMe, which I don't suggest. But
Yeah.
just mush. Northern European mush. And it's like, there's nothing there. It's boring. And, like, I get, like, white people, because, like, how do you even say this best? Like, white people conquered the world, did all this bullshit, fucked everybody over.
They wrote the books.
Yeah. But, like, you can't necessarily be proud of that.
That's just it. There's no pride in being the overdog.
No.
You know, that's why I think, like, when you look at today's society, you've got this...
I'm sorry. I'm just going to finish on this.
Oh, yeah, please.
So, like, I know I'm primarily Dutch. What am I supposed to be, like, proud of the Dutch East India Company or something? You know? Oh, we're good at dams.
Yeah. Stop.
But going back to the point, though, if you identify, not
Yeah.
in that case,
my point is I don't identify with anything.
No, I understand that, but if you did, and in my case Irish, in your case, Colombian, and all the lineages that you have, and whatever the fuck you are, Moses.
Well, it's a weird thing with me because I don't identify as anything because I was adopted. So even at a young age, I didn't identify with my family, the people who were raising me, because I was brought up knowing that I was adopted. So it's just like in the back of my mind, I'm like, and as far as, at least until I can like formulate these thoughts, just like, oh, so I don't really belong anywhere, because then I would go to family functions and it's just like super fucking Italian, because my mother is Italian and my father Scottish and German, I guess, and we would occasionally go there.
That your whole family was so Italian, because I've been to it.
Just my, it's just my mother's side.
I've been, fair enough. Yeah, I've been to like one or two of your family dinners when your pops was still alive and such like that. And I don't
even think he was terribly well at the time.
Your father was such a weird enigma because he was religion-wise. He liked going to.
Oh, he loved going to like Catholic churches. He was a Lutheran.
Yeah.
But he loved the pageantry. I went to Catholic school because it was a better school than public school, and my mother, we got a discount because my mother drove for it.
I liked your family gatherings, and this is why, I'm glad that you're talking about this, because your family gatherings that I've been to that I remember were so deeply Italian. Whether your pops was there or not, they were and they're that I was talking about barbarian. They were a little racist.
Oh, they're very racist. They are. No, and but that's what I grew up with. Well, I don't see it that I don't share the same thought patterns as them.
Popes, yeah.
But I mean, whatever. But it was just I didn't identify with my own family, so I don't really identify with anything. Yeah, I was raised Italian, and I knew of Scottish and German heritage on my father.
That wasn't your blood.
Well, yeah, and then I did know, from the documents that I had to find myself as a child, that there was, and those were. We'll get into that story when my mother passes, because I don't want to bring anything down on her. But finding out that I was Hispanic, and there was something else in there, but then. It wasn't. I guess this was maybe 5-7 years ago.
I thought you had Pinoy power. I thought you were Filipino or something.
Well, that was his mother.
That's not called Hispanic, by the way. And this is also. Just,
no. Before that.
Oh, fair enough.
Because there were documents for an adoption that I read.
So let me ask you real quick. So on that paperwork that you read, so not the blood test stuff.
No, not your mother gave me.
So it said Hispanic on there?
Well, it said some kind of Hispanic.
Which is just real quick.
It was very.
It's so.
But that's for another thing. I know why that was, and when my mother passes.
In this country, this is the only country where Hispanic is a fucking thing. Because if you're fucking Spanish, as my dad was, and he was mestizo,
right.
which is
not on a document.
The equivalent
there's no checkbox for that.
The equivalent of what your ancestor would have been.
But then,
and that's a thing that we don't have in the South.
So then I was predominantly raised Italian, and so I know how to do that cooking. And then when your mother gave me that 23andMe, I was like, oh, Jewish and Filipino. No. Okay. So then I was changing this. But, I'm like, all right, I could do meatballs. But you know what? Now that I'm Jewish, let's make it a matzo ball soup.
Now that I'm Jewish. And there we go back to identity.
Well,
we can be what we want to be.
I'm maybe I'll enjoy these things because genetically.
Matzo ball soup.
A matzo ball soup where you use what the fuck are those Jewish things called? Instead of putting
I don't know, you're Jewish.
instead of putting breadcrumb, like the Italian breadcrumb in the meatball.
Oh, are you
would
thinking
use
of matzah?
You put matzah in the meatball, and then with the Philippine, we make a thin tomato soup, like a Manhattan clam chowder.
This actually sounds really
thing.
good.
And then it's delicious. And so I would make a matzo ball soup, just playing on, the fucking comedy of the whole thing.
I get it. It's offensive.
So, but it's like at the end of the day, none of it fucking matters because you are whatever you want to fucking be.
I want to circle back to the question, before we wrap this up.
Yes.
Is it insulting? In that case, I'll use me as the example.
Yeah.
I identify with being Irish.
Right. Sure.
I am only, at best, maybe a quarter Irish.
Right.
Should Irish people, natural-born Irish people, but we can extrapolate to whatever you guys want to identify as, is it insulting for me to be like that to them?
I think it's flattering.
I think
it's a mixed.
As long as you're doing if you're like a white guy just like dropping N-bombs constantly, that's a little offensive, but...
You have the more important point to say, so I'll give you
jump
the floor.
in. Yeah.
I think it's very much a mixed bag. Like the Irish, the Italian, this is, and they'll tell you they're the most subjugated bunch in the whole mix.
At one point, they kind of were.
For a small
yeah. They had a couple of years.
But like I have not blood relation, but I have a very stereotypical Uncle Tony. I have a very stereotypical Duffy uncle by marriage. And they all think they have suffered the plight of, or if not beyond.
Must be real hard.
Yeah, seemingly. But like I listen to this shit, and it's like the New Jersey story. Like, oh, we're all fucking victims here. Yeah.
It's a Jersey boy story.
Tough guy victims.
This is. You should see Thanksgiving.
That's because you Irish kept us down for so long.
I'm not actually Irish.
I was talking to that one down there.
Oh my God!
The American flag at the end of the table.
And don't get me wrong, my Dutch aspect definitely kicked your fucking Filipino shit in the cunt a couple times. But
I'm still learning about them.
It's only 5 years.
The fact that you didn't get to say anything is yes. Like my life has been like kind of like no attachment. Like here, like I was told I was Irish. That turns out not to be true. Here's this, whatever. I'm just white mutt, and that's why I think like there is a level of jealousy in a way because there's nothing there.
I agree.
There's nothing there. There's no character. There's no nothing. And I think that's why in a lot of cases, like white people, they want to like my family when I was a kid. Told me, like, oh, we're part Lenny Lenape.
Yeah. You and Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah. And come to find out, like, yeah, one married into the family in the 1700s, but, like, it's not a blood relation down.
Yeah.
It's there, but, like...
And he never dealt with the adversity.
She was property. Right. She wasn't really married.
Listen, grew up in one of the whitest school systems ever. Went to college where I was the one of two white people, and I still got treated great.
There it is.
And that's the fucking truth of the matter.
Yeah. I think that those things very much so still exist in society. Yeah. It is what it is, I mean, like, I don't know the solutions to it, but I do think that, like, it's still very much so, like, it's a white patriarchal society. And for whatever that means to the listener, I think that it still exists that way. And it'll gradually continue to change in its own way. In terms of your question, Dan, should that be accepted? To what degree should that group accept your opinion, your defense of it? How much
your representation, your identifying with?
So I seed that when I'm like, as I kind of said, it's like, and I'll give you an exact example, right? So like I was at a bar a couple of months ago for a birthday party. I was with nothing but white people, and it was at a fucking white bar down my way. And I was telling one of these people, I was telling somebody a racist joke, right? And I dropped an N-bomb in it, right? Because that was kind of the point of the fucking joke, So I told that joke, and it was actually told to me by my good friend Stubbs. It's a black man, proper black man, not like me, not a high yellow. He was more of a low red, But so like it's so it's a proper joke, and a dude came over to me. And he was like fucking twice my size, and he came over, and he was like even lighter than me. But you could tell that he was ethnic, right?
Oh, for sure.
He came over, and he was like, yo, I want to talk to you. And I was like, what's up? And he goes, I don't really like what you said. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
I was like, fair enough. If you're offended, then no big deal. I just won't talk like that again.
Yeah.
I was like, but if you don't mind, are you black?
Yeah.
Because because I am part
you
black.
black?
Yeah. Are you black? Yeah. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. I was like, because not for nothing, like, you're like the same complexion as me, and I'm just trying to feel out, like, if you think that I'm white. Because, that's kind of where I'm coming at it from.
You could have also
here.
said why.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, are you black?
Yeah, no. But I wanted to get into it. I can fucking talk to people however I want. And
There's something incredibly interesting. There's my quick interjection. As a person that has multiple friends that exist within the spectrum of ethnicity, it can be incredibly hard when you're trying to... what your identity is, how you defend
and that's what I mean,
yeah.
If I was a fucking low-red black man, he never would have walked up to me, right?
Right.
And so basically, so we have this conversation, and he's like, I'm like 1/8 Jamaican. I'm like, okay, cool.
Right.
I was like, so, I'm happy to talk however you want, which I would have afforded the same thing.
You should never come at the problem is coming at each other with adversity.
Yeah. If a white dude walked up to me and was like, I don't like hearing the N-word, could you not say it again?
Fuck you.
I would. Well, no, I still would have been like, okay,
you
dude.
would be cordial.
Yeah, I'm going to be cordial. So, that's all that I was being. It wasn't about the color of his skin. I didn't care about that. I was just curious, if he was my comrade or like a hoity fucking white dude who was like, oh, you can't say fucking N-words around.
Sounds like this joke.
I'm probably about to say something that could potentially get me in trouble, but I feel like white people were all fucked up or assholes or stupid. I feel like, because I have multiple friends that exist within different parameters of the ethnic community. Sometimes those insecurities
That's what it
go
was.
against each other.
That's what it was. And so and he basically got into a beef with me. His his white friend ended up coming over and talking shit to me. And I was like, fuck you, dude. I was like, first of all,
sounds like this joke wasn't that funny.
Yeah, right. I was like, and I was trying to be cordial, and I was like, listen, dude, I was like, we're the same people. I was like, it's not a big deal.
Right,
If you don't want me to say something, I won't say it. But we don't gotta have beef here.
Right.
Ended up being a whole fucking thing at the bar, and it was a bunch of bullshit. And it actually bothered me because I was like, why does it have to be this way? I wasn't trying to offend the guy. And I felt like we're the only two, and this is a very, very white bar. Yeah. So I was like, I didn't know that he was ethnic in any way.
Right.
And it's like, why
Would
can't
you have not said the joke if you knew that?
No, I totally would have said the joke.
So then what's the
No, it wasn't about that. It was that he was fronting with me, and I was like, and it was like that. It became this beef, and I didn't want it to be that way. And I was like, how did I offend this man over something that was stupid?
Some people don't like comedy.
Yeah, well, that's fair
It's
enough.
also hardline ideas with your identity and stuff like that.
And I was
or he was showing off to his
that's
friend.
that's what it ended up being. I went and I was so and normally it's somebody talks shit to me at a bar and it's whatever, but I ended up talking to our boy Isaiah.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him about it in particular, but I was hanging out with my boy Stubbs and whatnot.
Right.
So these are more appropriate. Well, Isaiah's is mixed time, but I was hanging out with various different black folk, and I was just this really riled me up. I was like, am I wrong? I was like, you tell me, because you're fucking black as shit, and we hang out all the time. Am I overstepping my bounds? And they were like, was there a white girl there? And I was like, yeah, he was with a white girl.
There it is.
They were like,
There it
that's
is.
why. And I was like, oh god damn it, I should have fucking known that. So that's a roundabout way of saying, how do I react to whether I fit in or not? I cede that to people who've probably had more adversity than me. For the 3 times that I've been fucking pulled over because I looked a certain way, the folks that I hang out with, so talking about my boy Stubbs or something like that, my father, right? People who've been pulled over because they were black almost 100% of the time, right? I'll cede it to them because they had more adversity than I've had. So I'm not going to sit here and cry a fucking river while I'm fucking half Jewish. I'm wearing a fucking Waffen SS uniform right now, and I'm chilling.
Stop saying that.
All right, I'm sorry, Dan, but it is what it is. Yeah, talk about being real.
Well, can we hear the joke?
But no, I don't remember the joke.
God damn it.
I don't remember the joke.
Well, all right, good night, folks.
Yeah, but I'll cede it to that because I view it in that way. I think that you've got the right to be a part of a group when you've dealt with the shit of it. If you were Irish in the 1850s, then you've got the right to talk shit about that. It's like today, if you're fucking Irish, then you know what? Good for you.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and lecture a fucking black man who gets pulled over because he's cruising through fucking whatever fucking podunk goddamn New Jersey town and say oh, I've had had it so hard because I got pulled over 3 times. But if a white person is saying to me like, oh, you don't have it so hard because the cops are just like so fucking just and whatnot, then I'm going to take beef with it because you don't get it, and that's what it is. I think that I get it as much as my culture, my skin color takes me. And it's not super far. I'm not trying to pretend like I've had that same boat as a lot of my friends.
No, but your points are incredibly valid, though. Yeah. They're incredibly valid because, I can't speak to that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, you've never experienced that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you know that it exists.
I know it exists. Yeah. I've seen the trials you've had to go through in the town that we used to live in.
Yeah.
I fucking
I understated it with 3.
It's not me. It's not me.
Yeah.
I don't feel good about the way you're one of my best friends. I consider you a brother, and I hate the way you've been treated.
And that's what it is. And I'm as fucking light as they come, But it's but I still don't fully pass for white, and that's what it is. So I'll leave it, if I'm the only person who looks like me in a room to stand up for whatever minority is that I think I belong to. I'm not standing up for fucking, Indian people and Arabic people because I'm not. I would like to, and I will to a degree if it's too fucked up. But that's not my group, Yeah. But my group is the group that I identify with. And if I'm the only person there to do it, then I'll do that. And if there's somebody who outranks me, which sounds like such a childish way to say it, but it's garbage to say it that way, but that's what it is. But if somebody else that I'm with, if I'm hanging out with one of my low red friends, and they have no problem, and this does come up actually, where I'm hanging out with somebody who's properly black, and we're hanging out with one of their white friends, and their white friend drops the M-bomb, I'll look at them and they're it's funny, and I'm just cool.
Read the room.
Yeah, exactly. Read the fucking room. But if I'm the only one there, then I'll stand up for the things that I belong to because I don't want to hear anybody that I love and care about getting shit talked about them.
Be dragged down in any way, shape, or form.
And that's what it is. Yeah. So and likewise, if somebody said to me, in that example, and that's why I brought it up with that guy, I had to ask him. Are you any of these things?
Right.
Which goes to show you how fucking light he was. And it's
it also adds to the complexity of this whole thing.
Yeah. But if he was a proper black man, and he said that to me, I would be sorry for your disrespect, man. No big deal, And I wouldn't have asked him even, No. But even that tells you so much because this guy could have been 100% black and had every right based on my own reasoning.
This is not an A-B situation.
Yeah.
There's a lot
we draw these lines almost arbitrarily.
All right, good podcast, boys. I can see from Moses
he's
pulling out the
that for 20
cigarette
minutes.
that it's my cue to wrap things up.
It's the fucking Filipino in him. It's disgusting. They are such smokers.
So if you enjoyed this episode of the Loud and Drunk Podcast, please
go deep sea diving.
Shut up.
Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get this podcast.
Really?
We also have a home base, loudanddrunk.com. You can catch up on the podcast there. There's plenty of cool merch. We got T-shirts, glassware, whatever you fancy. We've got it at loudanddrunk.com. You can also hit up Moses. You can harangue him. You can talk shit to him. You can tell him how bad this podcast is if you want.
No, you are black. It's a Newport, huh?
It's a Newport Light.
So you are. You are a yellow.
They really are the best cigarettes.
Player came to play.
And you can do that via our contact page.
He's a high yellow.
We are also on social media.
Yes.
We are at Loud and Drunk on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm pretty sure that's all that I have to plug for this thing.
It's enough.
Oh, we are on TikTok. All right.
So, as long as you guys are done.
No, I got more, but you go ahead.
For Justin, Pedro, Moses, I'm Dan. And until next time, fuck you, Oliver Cromwell. You raped our motherland. I hope you're rotting down in hell for the horrors that you sent to our misfortunate forefathers. I can do the whole Dublin
Dan speaks for us all.
I mean, I very much do.
Man, somebody's got some Guinness in them.